Sharon bisa dijawab oleh Nadira. Kepada Nadira dipersilahkan.
Mungkin Uni
Unsiren kan hanya tentang itu, faktor yang mempengaruhi potensial aksi.
Ya.
Jadi untuk faktor-faktor utamanya itu, pertama ada transport aktif ion-ion saat melintasi membran sel saraf. Terus jadi transport aktifnya ini menghasilkan ketidakseimbangan konsentrasi ion-ion pada membran saraf itu. Terus yang kedua yaitu ada ketidakseimbangan distribusi ion positif dan negatif di dalam dan di luar sel. Yang ini akan menghasilkan gradien elektrokimia yang jadi sumber buat energi potensial si sarafnya ini. Terus yang ketiga itu faktornya itu faktor terbuka dan tertutupnya saluran ion yang salurannya ini selektif terhadap ion tertentu sehingga arus ion yang mengalir itu tuh dipicu oleh si gradien elektrokimia ini, Pak. Itu maybe that's all my answers for the questions. And if Sir and or the other Uda and Uni have another response, please tell us about that.
Okay, so according to explanations, Narira, it's probably it's kind of the mechanisms how it could be induced the depolarizations. But the point of the questions from Sudden is about what factors that could determine whether the potential actions will be reached or couldn't be reached. So in my knowledge that there are many factors actually. So the first is it depends on the power of stimuli that received by the receptors. For example, the lower tone of voice, that very weak voice or very weak touch or even a very small amount salt or other, it only triggers the very small amounts of generating the action potentials, and therefore it's categorized as the very low level of stimuli, so the low power of stimulations. So for example, when you scream, everybody could be hear you because the power of stimuli elicited by your voice will reach the receptors in the air, and therefore it will induce the polarizations of such receptors. So the first factors that may affect the polarizations or action potential levels is the power of stimuli itself. The higher stimulations will, ensure that will increase the levels of action potentials, and therefore it will be, over or cross the threshold, and therefore it will be proceed. But when the power is very low, like the very low voice, a very slow touch, very soft touching on your skin, or maybe very dark, very small amount of the light received by our eyes, and it will be failed to trigger the depolarizations. That is the first factor, so the power of stimulations itself. And the second, it could be the age-related degenerations of such receptors. So, simply said that the healthy receptors, like in, for example, in younger people like you, and for example, with very healthy eyes, healthy ear, and also the tongues and skin, it also could affect how the stimulation could be perceived, and therefore generates the polarizations of the receptors. So commonly for the older peoples, like probably over than 60 years old or later, the sensitivity of receptors will be decreased, and therefore even they, for example, they are exposed to the very high stimulations, like a very high voice or a very bright light or a very salty food, for example. It's kind of the stimuli, right? And then because the receptors cells itself is very weak, and therefore it couldn't be response to, I mean, it could respond, it couldn't respond to the stimulations, and therefore it could not triggers the increase of the polarizations or action potential. So it's kind of the sensitivity of receptors. And then sometimes it also could be related to the presence of the toxics in such a body, in such a receptors, or sometimes like physical barrier. For example, when we are catching a flu like influenza, and then there are so many mucosal layers in, I mean, on the surface of our nose, nostril, and therefore such mucous layers will prevent the molecules like odorant from your perfume, for example, or from something smell volatile gas, and therefore it couldn't reach the receptors itself because there are thicker layers of the mucosa, and therefore it's kind of a barrier that will prevent the stimulations to increase the potential actions. And even, for example, you are exposed to the very high concentrations of the perfumes, you will fail to smell it, to detect it, because the thicker the layers of the mucus on in your nostril is a very thick. That's it's sometimes like a toxic also could block the neurons itself, and also could block the receptors, and therefore you couldn't feel it. Like so it's kind of something like related to toxicity, and also some disease. Like recently when somebody is infected by SARS-CoV-2 virus causing the COVID-19 disease. I mean, COVID-19 is a disease, right? So COVID-19. So the infections of such a virus also in majority of patients or impacted peoples, it could triggers the very prominent, I mean, very common symptoms called anosmia, that you couldn't smell if something like odorants. So it is also because there is a kind of the blockage, for example, or there is some damage in your receptors of the neurons located in your nostrils, and therefore it couldn't process the stimulations to be converted to be electric signals, and therefore it couldn't be transmitted into the brains, and eventually it couldn't be increased the action potentials, and therefore there is no nervous signals there. So I think that is my additional explanations for the questions from Sharon. There are many factors actually. So then we will move to the questions number 1 for group 6. So there's a question from Shipa, group 1 from group 1. So Shipa want to ask the group 6, does the impulse leaking on the, I mean, this is unmediated actions, that naked, I mean, this is naked action have an effect, or what happens if the events of the impulse leak? So maybe you could share the previous slide describing about the transmissions of the signal through the axons. So there is a nodus renfier there, and there is the naked area, I mean, unmyelinated regions of the axons. And so that's the point questions of Shiba's questions. Whether the leakage of the, I don't know, unclad, what is an unclad? Axons have an effect. Oh, yeah, so this one. So there should be unmyelinated axon, as you see here in the upper part, in the left upper part. You can see that in unmyelinated axons, there is a possibility that the current will be leaked and it will trigger. So what kind of effect that could be curious for this? Please will be response to such a questions, Arin or Arin or Kiki.
Okay, sir. I'll try answer Silva's
Yeah.
question, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, as I said before in presentation, sir, that when the impulse is leak in axon, it can decrease the velocity of conduction in axon. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in, for example, in myelin axon, usually the velocity of conduction is 120 meter
Okay.
per second, sir. But in unmyelinated action, because there is the uh, leak of impulse, it can decrease the velocity become 2.5 meter per second, sir. The effect is decrease the velocity. I think, sir.
Okay, so
Thank you,
I
sir.
think I also agree with that answer from the Kiki explanations of the Kiki. So actually, the presence of the myelin here is really, really important, really, really necessarily to to increase the speed of neuronal transmissions. I mean the action potential transmission from one place to another place through the actions. So, as previously explained by the Kiki, in case of there is no myelinations, I mean the thick layers cover several part of the axons, then the speed of our conductions of the transmissions I mean potential transmissions is only like a 2.5 meter per second. So that is very slow in compared with the situations where I mean the conditions when there is a kind of the copper or myelinated in the axis, because the speed will be increased about 120 meters per second. It's like 100 times higher as compared with without myelin seed there. So therefore, the presence of such a copper or set is really really necessarily to increase the speed, the process of transmissions. So there is the prominent disease related to the demyelinations of the neurons is called multiple sclerosis. So some patients, because due to the genetic disorders, that the the productions, I mean the biosynthesis of the myelin is a fail, so their axons will be naked in many parts, and therefore the transmissions of the signals like your action potentials will be very slow, like it yes, this is less than 3 meters per hour. 3 meters per second, I mean, is compared with 100, more than 100 meters per second in the normal conditions. And also some infections also could cause the damage of the myelin cells in the axons, and it will be a fact. I mean, it will cause the very serious disease that the patient will be, paralyzed even slowly, but it will trigger the complete paralysis, and it will induce the premature death on the patients. So many cases, in many cases, that the common situation is that they couldn't move for the first, because the actions of the neurons that direct the muscle contractions on your on their limbs like a leg and hand, it failed to work because the transmission is very slow. And also unfortunately sometimes the neuron itself, also the neurons that control the contractions of like diaphragms, I mean, is related to the respiratory tract, and therefore, yeah, it's kind of the failures in respirations, because due to there is no stimulations of the neurons to induce the contractions of that smooth muscles nearby our stomach, and therefore that's very very serious disease actually. Okay, that is the second questions, and then we still have around 2 minutes letters. And okay, let's move to the second question for the group 5 from Tasha. To Tasha, Brigitte said that the presenter shows several types of neuroglia. And is there a special function in the types of neuroglia? So is there any particular functions of the neuroglia? So previously, group 5 have explained it about there is astrocyte, there is oligodendrocyte, and also microglia itself, and there are many kind like ependymal cells. So is there any particular functions of such a neuroglia there to support the neurons? Special functions, I mean, because you know that the supporting cells did not transmit the electricity, I mean transmit the potential actions, but they uh, are really really needed to support the functions, the optimum functions of the neurons itself. So please group 5 respond to such a questions. I thought that previously you have explained it in your slide. Probably group 5 could share the slide so we can also see there. Please, who will answer such questions? Anissa or Zimda or Nadaira? So it's a very simple question from Tasha, actually. It's about is there a special function in this type of neuroglia? So in your slide, you have explained about it actually, but probably you may re-explain it again and put some points.
Okay, sir. I will try to answer Tasha question. Jadi seperti yang dijelaskan sebelumnya itu fungsi dari neuroglia itu adalah untuk mensupport dari neuron dan ada beberapa tipe dari neuroglia ini yang terletak di central nervous system dan juga di peripheral nervous system. Yang di central nervous system itu ada ependymal cells, oligodendrocyte, astrocyte, dan microglia. Dan sedangkan di peripheral nervous system itu ada satellite cells and Schwann cell.
Yeah, it's like here, oligodendrocyte also produce the myelin seed. So it is produced by the oligodendrocyte. That is very, very important to support the neuron itself. So without the productions of the myelin seed by the oligodendrocyte, then it will trigger the disease because the transmissions of such signals through the axons will be very slow. So any additional explanations about it? It is not, Nisa?
Jadi astrocyte itu dia memprovide nutrien dan beberapa mengatur konsentrasi ion dan kandungan kimia di ekstraseluler fluid. Di sini astrocyte itu memberi nutriennya itu di central nervous system, sedangkan di peripheral itu terdapat juga yang untuk provide nutrien itu adalah satelit glia.
Yeah, so that's I think it's quite clear the explanations from Anisha about the particular function. So each type of the supporting cells, called it neuroglia, has a very particular, I mean, the significant contributions on the normal work of such a nervous systems. So, for example, the astrocyte also provides support, call it a blood-brain barrier, and I mean, previously we have talked, I think, about the blood-brain barrier. I mean, it's kind of the a barrier. So astrocyte will cover the capillary blood in our brain, and therefore it will select. I mean, it will be a kind of the filters that will select any kind of the substance, what kind of the substance that could cross to reach the brain from the blood, from the capillary blood, and what the substance that couldn't reach it. So it's based on the blood-brain barrier, and therefore it will protect our brain from the damage caused by many substances contained in the blood, because we know that the blood contains many kind of substance. So even, for example, you eat something like some chips containing the preservative substance or fixative substance, and therefore it could be toxic for your brain, and therefore the astrocyte will function to select it. And then also the ependymal cells. The ependymal cells is also really, really important for the neurons functions. Why? Because recently known that actually ependymal cells, it also triggers like a brainwashing. So it literally brainwashing. So it's not like a psychological program, but the ependymal cells, these cells will move its cilia frequent, I mean, in such a manner that could triggers the flow of the fluid and in our cerebrospinal, it's called cerebrospinal fluids in our brains, and when it moves, it will triggers the current of the fluids into our circulatory systems. So why is such a I mean, the current of such a fluid from our brain into circulatory system is important, because it's kind of like when you clean your bathtub or you clean your water tanks. It is our brains, and when we work, particularly during the day, it will produce many toxic. So based on the, originated from the neuronal activity, it will triggers the formations of many kind of toxic, and one kind of the protein produced by our brain regularly, particularly during the day, is called beta amyloid. So the formations of beta amyloid will be very, very high during the day or under the stressful conditions. And when you take a rest and then taking a nap, for example, or sleep during the night, then the ependymal cell will work. The ependymal cell will flush it, will clean such a protein called beta amyloid, and therefore the accumulations of beta amyloid will be decreased in our brains. Otherwise, if such a function is failed, for example, the ependymal cell couldn't work properly, and then your brain will be blocked by many kind of accumulations of such a protein called beta amyloid. And as you know, that beta amyloid is the proteins as a culprit causes the Alzheimer, that your neurons will die, and then it will also block the transmissions between synapse, and it will trigger the loss of your memory earlier. So that is really important. So I think that's a great answer from the group 5. And okay, Tasha and then Fadila. Probably we don't have a proper time. We just have 5 minutes later, but then we will continue to answer such questions in our WhatsApp group. But let's for the longest time, let's discuss about the question from Fadila Chantika to group 6. So Fadila asked to group 6 that on slide 9 about electrical transmission across the synapse. The presenter said that the ions can pass from the pre-synapse to post-synapse. So this is in the electric synapse type, right? And when the opposite happens, from the synapse to the post, when the opposite happens, what things can happen from the incident? So this case, for example, this one, the electrical synapse. So one of particular characteristic in electrical synapse that the current could flow in two different directions. I mean, in vice versa. So the current could move. I mean, this ionic current. So the ion is moved through the gap junctions from the presynapse to the postsynapse. So and then it also could move from the postsynapse to the presynapse. So it is I mean it is interchangeable the current itself. So but Fadila Chantika queries about when the current move in I mean counteract the direction, the coming directions from, so the current will move, the ion current will move from the postsynapse to the presynapse. So what will happen from such a I mean process, such a incident or physiological process happen there? So Arin or Kiki, would you mind to respond to such a question?
Uh, okay, sir. I'll try to answer Fadila's question, sir.
Yeah.
As Kiki said before, sir and friends, in gap junction, there is the structure of protein that connect presynaptic membrane and postsynaptic membrane.
Mm-hmm.
Um
So,
because this is the electrical synapses, the neurotransmitter molecule is
mhm.
flow to presynaptic membrane to postsynaptic membrane because of the different voltage in presynaptic membrane and postsynaptic membrane. When the presynaptic membrane has the high voltage and postsynaptic membrane has a low voltage, the neurotransmitter molecule will flow from presynaptic membrane to postsynaptic membrane. But in special case, there is some reason that make the voltage in presynaptic membrane is lower than in postsynaptic membrane. It can make the neurotransmitter from postsynaptic membrane uh, run to presynaptic membrane, but it's very rare. Uh, if this case is happen in neuron cell, it can make the neurotransmitter propagation, perambatan proses neurotransmitter itu terhambat sehingga uh, yang seharusnya neurotransmitter molekulnya itu fast tersampaikannya dari postinalti satu ke postinalti selanjutnya ini menjadi terhambat karena memang pada dasarnya neurotransmitter itu harus dialirkan dari presinaptik ke postinaptik. Kalau menurut Kiki seperti itu, Sir and Fadila Cantika. Thank you,
Okay,
Sir
so I
and
would like
friends.
also give a comment to such a question, question and answer also. So first of all, it is not true that the current flow in electrical synapse is neurotransmitters. So there is no neurotransmitters used in electrical synapse. Only in chemical synapse use it as neurotransmitters. So it's kind of the something flows from the presynapse to the postsynapse, or in reverse in opposite is ion. So like a sodium ion or potassium ion that could move freely from presynapse to the postsynapse positions through the gap junction bridge that facilitates such movement. So it is actually also could be happen. It is possible to happen that in under the physiological situations, for example, when some stimulations coming from the postsynapse, it will triggers the reverse current from the postsynapse to the presynapse, and therefore the directions of the action potentials, I mean, a movement from one place to place will be like in opposite way. And of course this is also is not something very effective, because why, sometimes it will cause the chaos of the transmissions, and therefore the neuronal activity also will be affected. And but yeah, as you see, the electrical synapse also could be found in humans or in higher levels of the animals, like in vertebrates, but it's very rare. It's only used in like an instant movement, like in reflex movement. So it's just needed in such a kind of the process of neuronal process. But the common thing is mediated by chemical synapse, where the neurotransmitters will facilitate the the generations of potential actions of another neurons related with a presynapse neurons. So I think that's all. That actually there are two remaining questions that need to be answered, but since that we don't have proper time, because I also have to attend a meeting with the head of our university, the master of university, and therefore we will continue to discuss. Please group 5 response to such questions in our groups, and I also will also add some additional explanation for your answers to such questions. So thank you very much for the great presentations from group 5 and group 6 today, and we, I think, have gained of our understanding related to the nervous systems, how the neurons work, and how the physiological function could be achieved and generated in order to control of our body. And hopefully that it also will not only increase your knowledge of the neurons and its functions, it also will increase your understandings on the yourself, your body, how your body work, and therefore you will be aware for yourself about your health. Thank you very much, and don't forget for the next week the latest time for our presentations. Please prepare such a better preparations, and also great presentations for the latest in reproductive systems topic. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.